Roger, thank you. Today, WMTW is launching Your Choice, Your Voice. It's a Commitment 2022 series where our coverage is controlled by you, the viewers.
Well, last month we put out a survey on WMTW.com and asked you which issues you care about the most this election season. Over the 1,000 answers that we received, these were the top 8 issues that you chose. Over the next couple of weeks, we'll dive into each of them, featuring them from your perspective. We'll also break down the candidates' records on each issue.
Community grocery stores like Gowell's Shop and Save in Green represent the beating heart around which the lives of its customers are centered around. But these days, the act of buying essential everyday items has caused the blood of Mainers to run cold.
So all I can say, it's shocking.
It's especially messy for seniors like Diane Robert and Joan Blossom, who live on fixed incomes.
Because living on just a very small pension and Social Security, as the prices go up, we really have to see what you can afford.
They keep going up and up. There's no, definite way you can plan your budget and then go buy it and say, this is what we need to get.
If you want to get something and can't afford it, you just don't get it. But it's a challenge, paying the bills, plus also trying to get the regular food.
It's an even greater challenge for those who shop for more than just themselves.
I could get groceries and feed my family of 3 for under $100 a year ago, and now I can't. It's $150, $200 just to feed everybody. It's hard to make the sacrifices, like, do I feed everybody? Does everybody get a healthy meal? You got to weigh out all your options. But other than that, sometimes food pantries, I have to.
The issue has been a linchpin for former Governor Paul LePage's campaign to retake the Blaine House, as he blames the rise in inflation on what he says is the excess spending of federal relief money by governors such as Janet Mills.
We know the massive increase in spending of one-time federal and state money has forced inflation to skyrocket. And Janet Mills continues to make the same mistake again and again.
Food prices across the country have risen 11% from last year, and this year national inflation reached its highest point in 40 years. Governor Mills says that while Maine can do little to reverse national trends, the $850 relief checks that she, along with legislative Republicans, helped send to Maine taxpayers provided a cushion for higher costs, a tactic LePage says was used to buy votes.
There's a little that governors can do, but what we can do is provide direct cash relief to the people in Maine who need it to pay the grocery bill, to buy food.
But the shoppers at Gowell's say that regardless of who wins this year, the money leaving their pockets should be at the front of the mind.
We're struggling, and we need someone that's going to stand up and fight for us and reduce the cost of living.
They must not be doing groceries. They must be having somebody do their groceries for them because they're not looking at the prices.
I was just disappointed that the whole system seems to be a mess.
Have her give her a call or send over a text message and I'll be able to set something up for her.
Jeremy Riordan is a man in demand this time of year.
So she can order online at willowcreekfuel.me.
For 10 years, Riordan has owned Willow Creek Fuel out of Saco as a one-man operation, delivering to the customers he's known for years. But with the heating season underway, Riordan and his customers have been feeling the burn.
We used to get upwards and downwards movements of 15 cents, 20 cents sometimes, and that was a big deal because we have to reset our price. All of a sudden, in a week's time, every single day, it was going up 10, 15 cents on our end.
How much has the price risen in the last 2 weeks?
Many of us got down to the $3.99 range. It took about 2 weeks for us to all get back up to the $5 range, just because we're at the mercy of what the price is being set at, of what we can buy it for.
That's due to oil market volatility caused by factors such as Russia's war in Ukraine and production cuts from OPEC. Riordan says even inventory has been an issue for providers this year, with kerosene shortages of particular concern, and some terminals occasionally running out of oil.
It's a bit scary to not feel that we're well supplied with enough oil to get through the season. Part of me doesn't want to believe that, but we have been cautioned this year that we could see $6, $7, $8 a gallon pricing.
The solution to this problem has divided the gubernatorial candidates. Back in March, Governor Janet Mills used federal welfare money to give a one-time $800 energy subsidy to low-income households and has lobbied the federal government for more assistance. Her GOP opponent, former Governor Paul LePage, believes more should have been done and says he would have used the money for the bipartisan $850 relief checks sent to all Maine taxpayers and instead used it to subsidize heating oil. All of that will mean little in the short term, however, as winter approaches and thousands of Mainers move closer to a chilling reality.
I go to a lot of doorsteps. There's some struggle. And boy, that struggle has been happening when prices got into the high 3s and 4s. Can't imagine what's going to happen if we enter the 6s or 7s this year. I think there's going to be a lot of folks choosing heat or eat to what their choice is for that week. If they want to be warm or if they want food on the table. I do think it's going to be a long winter.
They take advantage of us because we can't defend ourselves. Police won't help us because we're homeless. Nobody cares about us. But they don't understand some people have been working all their lives and can't afford an apartment because they jacked the rent too high. What are we supposed to do? How are we going to survive and take care of our children?
For Jacques McQuiller, these are questions that have defined his life since last summer, when he began living on the street.
What was life like living in the streets?
Rough. Got jumped, beat up, stomped, robbed.
He's had a reprieve for the past 4 months, living in Scarborough's Comfort Inn, along with more than 80 other guests. It's one of numerous hotels throughout southern Maine that have taken in those without shelter, a number that doubled in 2022 and will likely increase even more. The average 2-bedroom rent in the greater Portland area is over $1,600, twice the number that the average renter can afford. The hotels have staved off an even bigger crisis, but the dam could be about to break.
Were you given the eviction notice like
Yes,
everybody else?
I was one of the first people.
What will happen after that 30 days?
I don't know where I'm going to go or what I'm going to do. If I go back to the streets, I know I'm not going to make it. I know I'm going to be dead. I can't live like this anymore. Somebody need to help us.
It's a fate that could be shared among the hotel residents, as the Comfort Inn has delivered eviction notices to all of its guests with the intent of clearing the hotel by January 1st, during the harshest period of Maine's winter.
If people were to lose...
You'd be picking dead bodies up all over.
With no emergency housing readily available, it's a reality that is soon closing in. Portland's Oxford Street shelter is seen as unsuitable by many, and a common refrain from those that are homeless is that the conditions at the shelter make even the streets preferable.
No, I can't sleep at Oxford Street because I got jumped and beat up. I'm sorry, guy had a knife in his hand. I got to protect myself.
It's a topic that has graduated from being a local issue to now becoming a full-fledged statewide issue. In an attempt to increase the housing stock, Governor Janet Mills signed a bill in April championed by State House Speaker Ryan Fecteau, which amends zoning regulations to require all municipalities to allow 2 housing units on lots previously reserved for single-family homes. State has been working with the city of Portland to find emergency housing before the opening of a new shelter on Riverside Street, but Mills' opponent this November, former Governor Paul LePage, believes more needs to be done and advocates consolidating schools and converting unused school buildings into affordable housing. It comes, though, as little comfort for McQuiller or the residents of the Comfort Inn, as they plead for a lifeline with the clock ticking towards a winter in the streets.
Help us. We don't need to be like this. Sleeping in the street in the winter. I slept out in snowstorms, below zero. Knowing I'm not even supposed to be out in the streets, period. Taking a chance because I want to live.
Anyone who knows me will see this and be like, what is she doing? Because I'm always telling her to get down. I know. This is the best day ever. My name is Dana Pierce. I'm 43 years old and I'm from Yarmouth, Maine.
What's life like around the house for you?
Busy. The 6-year-old is in 1st grade now, which is lovely, and our 2-year-old is in a nursery school. That was a picture we took about a week before we found out about baby Cameron. With that picture, it was on the back of our holiday card being like, we're, anticipating
another hatchling.
Baby, another hatchling, exactly.
The painting
above the fireplace.
Let me see it. I think it has it on the name on the back.
There are 3 eggs.
I mean, I do have 3 kids. One just isn't with us anymore.
It was a seemingly normal pregnancy, 13-week ultrasound, I think it was, and everything was fine. And then my 20-week ultrasound was fine. We actually had just bought a new house. We had closed on the new house at 9 in the morning, and then we had this routine ultrasound at 10:30. And I remember just being so excited to get more pictures. They started doing them just normal measurements, and the measurements were wildly abnormal. So our son, and we had named him, his name was Cameron, had a type of lethal skeletal dysplasia. We didn't realize it at the time, but he had multiple healed fractures, and his femur was broken. His head was measuring, I think, 35 or 36 weeks along, and his limbs were all measuring like 22 weeks.
So at that point, you knew that this pregnancy was not going to be viable.
If I got to a point where they would allow me to have a C-section, he would die within hours to days.
This is one of the books that one of our friends gave us for our daughter. Right after we lost Cameron. It is what it sounds like. It's a book about a family where the mom's pregnant, and then from the kid's point of view, something happened, and that's what they're told, something happened, but there's no baby. There was no other way to explain it, and so I guess we processed it by saying, yeah, like sometimes really sad things happen, and it's okay to cry, and it's okay to talk about it.
What was that moment like when you terminated the pregnancy?
I just felt so much relief that he was no longer suffering. And I know some people do choose to carry babies that have this to term. And I would never fault them. I would never legislate against them. And I would feel very sad for them because it was very sad. But I am so glad that I could make that choice for myself and for my son to let him go. I'm grieving just imagining putting my family through that, putting Cameron through that, putting myself through suffering that I knew that I could prevent.
What don't leaders understand about situations like yours?
We're not monsters. We're not trying to, we're just people trying to do our best for ourselves and for our children or children that we don't want to have. I actually spent a lot of time finding this perfect, I guess it's called an urn.
What does it mean to have that here?
That we remember him, that it wasn't for naught, I guess. This was part of a physical reminder that we almost had him once.